Well, welcome everybody. I think it's still good afternoon as we head into early evening. I hope you all feel refreshed. So you're all down in the atrium getting a cup of tea. As Alison has said, I'm Julie Stone. I'm Director of Online Learning at the University of Derby. We have about 3,500 students who study with us, both in the UK and a global level through online learning. So we widen that access to allow all individuals who wish to access the university and higher education to be able to do so. So that's my substantive role, but I'm moving into a new role which is about leading on the Business Gateway here at Derby. So it's really is my pleasure this afternoon, and forgive me for putting my glasses on, but I have to remember a few names, to welcome you here to the Logistics and Supply Chain Conference on behalf of the executive and my boss who would like to be here today, Judith Lammy, who is the Associate Pro-Vice-Chancellor at the University of Derby. I've heard there's been a great event this afternoon, a round table event facilitated by John Forkin from Marketing Derby from within the city, and we've had businesses there from Tesco, from Toyota, and also the Bishop of Derby attended that. And that round table was about modern slavery laws in the supply chain area. And I hear that there was some very harrowing stories that were heard there. And I think as a university, it's up to us to understand the practices that are going on within our businesses. It's up to us to understand and change policy, and social policy is very much at the heart of what we do at Derby. So I heard that was a great event. I think there'll be some outputs from that. I think there's a lot that we can learn from businesses within that, and hopefully Alison will be changing some practices here at Derby as a result of that, and I'm sure that will go back into the teaching and learning of the courses. So thank you to John Forkin, a big thank you for John on that. But I'd also like to extend a special welcome to our speakers this evening, who you are all here to listen to. And we've got the three speakers on the front. So that's Robin Proctor, President of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport in the UK. Will be speaking first. Mark Elliott, Solutions Manager from Logistics, and Peter Loudon, Business Solutions Director from Clipper Logistics. It's great that we all come together for events like this because it's an important part of what we do on campus here at the University of Derby, because these are incredibly valuable experiences for our students. No more is about coming to university, sitting in some ivory tower, ever that it were here, and just listening to the academics. What we like to do is inform the learning through real-world learning, and that means bringing professionals, business people in, our alumni and our current students, so that we can have debates, discussion, learn what's going on, learn what new policies are, and we will learn together and take those practices forward. And this is how we take also the subject forward. So thank you to everybody who's contributing to that today. I'd like to say well done to the College of Business, Law and Social Sciences for being innovative in this way, particularly I suppose to Simon and to Alison, because these are important events. The university got a gold rating in its teaching excellence framework within the UK, and I think it's these type of events that make sure that the students and the graduates that leave the University of Derby go out and make an impact in their careers because of events like that. So well done on arranging this event and on that innovation. I hope you all have a great day, a great evening, and I'm going to hand you over to Simon Smith, who's the Senior Lecturer in the college, who'll be telling you about the events and introducing some of our speakers. So many thanks. Welcome to Derby.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see a full house. Almost full house, but with empty chairs, I'm sure they'll fill as the night goes on. So my job is to announce our distinguished guests. You're all distinguished, of course, but our three distinguished speaking guests this evening. And we're going to do also some questions and answers at the end. So What I'd like to try and do is, after each speaker has finished, we'll do sort of 2 or 3 questions, but if you can be mindful, it'd be great if you could just note down a few questions you might want to ask when we get to the towards the end of the show. That would be great, and then we can have a mixed array of questions to suit the different subjects. So, first on this evening is Robin Proctor, President of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport. Got to get this next bit right. Robin is going to talk about how to put a zebra on the moon. Thank you, Robin.
Right, good evening. I am the president of CILT. We can talk a bit more about that when we do the questions bit. You won't probably have seen me present before, a lot of you, and I tend to be a little bit frenzied. So I apologise now. I'll wander up and down. They've stopped me tonight a little bit, but yeah, we'll see where we get to. I'm even worse tonight, okay, because basically for the last week, I've been dealing with my apartment, which we're demolishing basically. It's a ground floor apartment. I've got neighbours above. We're taking all the walls out, and I went in there yesterday, and the conservatory's disappeared, and all the walls have disappeared, and the neighbours are getting mad, and they're phoning me on the way down today. So I'm a bit frenzied because of that as well, so you've got that on top. And then tomorrow, and nice to see a bunch of students in the room, you'd expect that here, but it's great to see you. And tomorrow I'm off on my son's stag do. Yes, I know I'm not old enough. He's 27. And we're going with 20 of you guys to effectively to Bulgaria skiing for a week, and I'm petrified. So basically, I'm caught between those two things. I signed up 6 months ago, and here you have a frenzied Robin Proctor talking to you tonight. There's a serious point to the zebra on the moon bit, and we will get there in the end. But you know, if you did come to find out how to put it on the moon, I apologise now, because you might not actually leave having the answer to what you came into the room for. But you'll have some great facts along the way, I'm sure. So without further ado, let's have a look at this. Now, I always think it's really important that you have some context in a way to what you're going to hear about. So, you know, why on earth am I here? Why can I talk to you about these things? And, you know, what are my experiences, if you like, that you're going to hear about? So I'm going to give you a bit of background before we start. So a bit of background for you. That's me there, almost. I had the hair like that before it started to disappear on top very recently. I went to work for a bank. I left school after my A-levels, went to work for the bank in Chorlton-cum-Hardy in Manchester. After being held up twice in 6 months at gunpoint, going on relief on a regular basis to Moss Side, where I wasn't allowed even to walk in without a security guard from my car, with my briefcase and all that sort of stuff. I decided banking wasn't for me. Great decision, considering what happened to banking a little while later. But it had a big influence on me. You know, I understood that sitting behind a counter and sitting still all day wasn't really going to work for me. I then left there and I went to work for Sainsbury's, where I was a trainee manager for a period of time, and I worked for Sainsbury's in the end for 7 years. But again, the big thing that shaped me at Sainsbury's was working on the night shift. So some of you may have done this, I don't know, but certainly you'll know people who have. Filling the shelves at Sainsbury's sounds quite mundane. Wow. As a manager, you know, what an experience that was. Trying to motivate 30 or 40 people who are probably on their second or third job of the day, working till midnight to try and get that place looking like a new store in the morning, with only those resources, and every day trying to do it is a real experience when you're 18, 19, I can tell you. You soon learn how to try and motivate people and get things done that seemingly are impossible, okay? And that does happen every night in a Sainsbury's, as well as with some of the things you're going to see up here today. There was always conflict as well between the day shift and the night shift. You know, the day shift always left it a mess for us, and we had to tidy up after them. You know, the night shift, we're always told that it was always rubbish in the morning. There was always conflict in business, isn't there? You know, you're going to come across that as you go through your careers. So we'll talk a bit about that as well. So that's where I get some of my experiences from that come today. I'm also absolutely fascinated by space, the space race, all the things that are going on, all things space. Okay, and one of the reasons I'm fascinated by them is, as I moved on from Sainsbury's, I went to work for Iceland for 7 years. I then went on for my sins to work for MFI for 4 years, but that was a fantastic experience to see that business disappear essentially through some of its bad decisions, but then turn into what is now Howden Joinery. That's a very successful FTSE business. But while I was there, believe it or not, at that business, I met a guy called Jerry Joyner. And Jerry Joyner was a doctor on the Apollo moon missions. And that was a fascinating thing to get into and understand. Jerry was really, really passionate about talking about what had happened on those missions and how it could be translated into the way people could operate in business as well. And it really had a quite profound effect on me. And we'll talk a bit later about some of the stuff to do with the space race. But one of the things Jerry was involved in was on the Apollo 1 mission, which was in 1967. 3 of the astronauts died in a capsule that was on a test launch when a fire broke out. And after that fire, the organisation nearly fell apart. For about 20 months it took to get things back together again before they finally went to the moon. Whether they did or they didn't, well, you know, I'll leave for your debate. I can tell you they absolutely did, given all the passion I've seen around that subject. But I'll leave you to decide. But yeah, you know, really fascinating guy. You know, he literally watched the people die because he had to monitor these guys in the spacecraft. But he also saw the organisation he loved start to fall apart because everybody was blaming each other. So we'll come back to that a bit later and try and understand that too. And he used to say as well, he said, at the end of the day, Robin, you guys, he's talked to a number of leaders, and he say, at the end of the day, you're a skin bag on a dirt ball spinning around the sun. Okay, and one of the things we've all got to remember is, you know, we're not that important. So whether you're the leader of an organisation or you're called the president, I mean, God, I was made president at the same time as Trump. You know, I wasn't that excited about it. But, you know, we're all the same. We can all make a huge difference out there. So we'll come on to that as well. And really, this is what this is about. So we're going to talk about some logistics stuff, but you can apply what I'm going to say to you to any of your businesses, organisations, whatever business you end up in or are in at the moment. You can apply any of these principles of leadership, and we'll talk a bit about how they relate to logistics. But really is about trying to achieve the seemingly impossible, you know, within a sea of things that are going on around you. Okay. You'll have heard, I'm sure, quite a lot about these sorts of areas. So we're talking at the moment a lot about Industry 4.0, aren't we? You know, what on earth is that, Industry 4.0? So basically they're saying it's the next revolution. Well, you know, if you look at these different revolutions that have gone on, we've got the Industrial Revolution that happened, transportation, computer and IT. I mean, in my head, I'd split that out and say there's been a massive revolution with mobile technology that is separate to computing technology in its own right because of the profound effect it's had on all of us, whether it be socially or whether it be politically, whether it be through the way it shapes organisations and the way that we think about the future. So, you know, we'll touch on that a little bit as well. And now we're into this area where we're talking about robotics, automation, AI, autonomous vehicles in logistics. You know, really, really exciting times. And, you know, if you were going to get involved in logistics, for me, now is the time, because actually we've gone from this bit where it's all about the computer geek side of things and it's all about the technology side. And actually a lot of what we're seeing now is in the physical world. It's in infrastructure, it's in robotics, it's in how we manage and deliver some of the promises that are made. And when we're on Amazon Prime, how the hell we get that stuff arrive a few hours later or the next morning, which people don't tend to think about. So a lot of it's going to come into the real physical world next, but there's some real issues with that. So I just want to play a video for you to get us in the mood for this bit.
Once upon a time, business as usual was often good enough. No more. Where we are going, good enough is dead. In a world where everything is connected, where everything is equally excellent, where performance is reaching perfection, there's only one space left to innovate in: you. Right now, you are a central point in the raging tornado of change fueled by digitization, mobilization, augmentation, disintermediation, automation. Well, the list goes on. Science fiction is becoming science fact. Think about self-driving cars or computers that can learn and think. The way we work will never be the same. The skills we need will be dramatically different. Winning or losing are now happening faster than ever before. So what's your response? How will you discover new opportunities in one of the most transformational times in human history? Are you driving change, or are you being driven by it? Disruption has become the new normal. With change, it's always gradually, then suddenly, well, things really have stopped happening gradually. This change is exponential. Everything that used to be dumb and disconnected is now wired and intelligent. Cars, cities, ports, farms, even our bodies will be wired with sensors and will talk to each other. These game changers are also combinatorial. They amplify each other, creating a perfect storm of change. Quantum computing fuels big data. The Internet of Things fuels artificial intelligence and deep learning, which fuels robotics. However, anything that cannot be digitized or automated will become extremely valuable. Human-only traits such as creativity, imagination, intuition, emotion, and ethics will be even more important in the future, because machines are very good at simulating, but not at being. Yes, robots and software will do some of our work, but this will allow us to focus on things that cannot be automated. To imagine change squared, you've got to start engaging more with what might be, not just with what is. Immerse yourself in the immediate future, 5 to 7 years out from today. We need to go beyond technology and data to reach human insights and wisdom. Technology represents the how of change, but humans represent the why. The future is about holistic business model. The opportunity is to be liquid, to learn just in time, not just in case, not single improvements, but complete transformations, not individual systems, but new ecosystems. Humanity is where true and lasting value is created. We will engage, relate, and buy things because of the experiences they provide, because of their transformative power. The future doesn't just happen. The future gets happened. The new way to work is to embrace technology, but not to become it. The future is in technology, yet the bigger future lies in transcending it. Let's live and lead from here.
Okay, so yeah, this is my point really. Yeah, and I found that just searching around online, and you know, it is. We all talk about, oh, it's so exciting, all this technology, it's amazing, it's fantastic. But you know, not just in the logistics world, but we'll stick to that for a bit. You know, we've got to find ways now of taking that and using that in the infrastructure around us, in the way that we do things, that we deliver things, and that takes time. And one of the challenges for businesses is uncertainty. So I can't remember, I've worked for the last 12 years at Travis Perkins Group. That business has got 23 different businesses, 25,000 colleagues. We had 3,000 vehicles on the road. You know, and there's masses of investment involved in a business like that and making it work and making it move every day. How on earth in a business like that, or any other business of that scale, do you then watch the changes that are taking place at the pace that they're taking place and decide what your infrastructure is going to be in 10 or 15 years' time? Because when you lay a bet in the logistics market, whether it be in transportation systems or whether it be in logistics systems, you're laying some pretty big financial bets for your organisation for the long term in a very, very uncertain world. And you know, if we go back to 2007, 2008, everything changed with the financial crisis, and it's carried on ever since. And I think what that video shows is, you know, it is going to carry on ad infinitum now and at an ever more changing pace. So what do we do about that? How do we manage it? How do we make decisions in these uncertain times? Well, actually, other people have shown that you can do it. So, you know, if you go out there and you go to a Zara store, I remember when I was at Cranfield and I was being trained in logistics and supply, it was around 2000, year 2000, 1999, something like that. One of the case studies was Zara, because they were actually using supply chains in a different way than anybody had before. Everybody was sourcing stuff from thousands of miles away over in Asia, You know, I've done that for the last 15 years. I've run teams out in Asia supply chains. And these guys were doing it differently. They were managing most of their supply chain from Europe. They could react very quickly. And now look at them. They've got more than that. They've probably got more, around 2,000 stores now, I think, plus Massimo Dutti, which I'm dressed in today, very nice, which, you know, is on top of that. You know, phenomenal business in a market that was absolutely swamped with the same thing. You could go out and buy fashion on the high street. Marks and Spencer's didn't manage to do it. You know, a lot of other companies have come and gone, but they've stayed and they got their plan and their thoughts right. But they also had a great leader who decided where he was going, and one of his key mantras was, we're never going to put anything on sale. So they do now, didn't used to. We're never going to put anything on sale, because he challenged his operators to always put the, I'm colourblind, so I can't put stuff together, you can probably see. But you know, they put things together in the shop so that people like me can go and buy, oh, nice outfit, and you buy the outfit. No, you don't go and see 20 shirts on the shelf. So he thought about it in a different way and led the organisation to success. What about these guys? Okay, so we're going to talk quite a bit about Elon Musk. I mean, you know, Tesla, really interested in this. I like this one because so many people that I work with told me that electric trucks would just never happen. It was impossible technology. It's not going to happen. Forget it. Yeah. Yet this guy will have them on the road in the next 2 years, and we know from the other things he's done, the pace at which he'll deliver that and roll it out, and with the marketing engine he's got behind him. There's plenty of other people doing this. It's just we all know about this one because he's brilliant at marketing, isn't he? So, you know, but what a fantastic leader. But so many naysayers saying, oh, no, that won't happen. I'm not going to buy into that technology. I'm not going to try some of these new things yet. And they will be the people that don't get there in the end. This sort of stuff that's been going on. So a lot of stuff is about underutilization and making sure that you can use the resources that you've got around you more effectively. Winners in that kind of space, DPD. What a great business DPD are. Who's had a DPD delivery this week? Oh, at least nobody put their hand up. You know, about 4 or 5. You know, I'm really pleased when I get the DPD man coming. I'm a bit worried when Wendy has the DPD man coming at home, because generally she knows his name, he's got his telephone number, he seems to turn up quite a lot when I'm out lecturing. So, but she does know the guy. She chats to him, you know, and she, oh, Fred's coming at some whatever time. You know, they're brilliant. You know, they've managed the technology. They got in there early. They've used the technology, and now people are buying their services. Both you guys know about them. You know, I would make a choice. If I had a choice between a vendor who does and doesn't have DPD, I'd probably use DPD because I'd make sure it got delivered when I thought it would. So, you know, again, great leadership, got in there early when other organisations weren't doing that. It's very hard to catch up with this sort of stuff as well. So, you know, they've taken out, those organisations took action, didn't they? They did something different in a market that seemingly was swamped with lots of people doing the same things, and they've been very successful. You know, all 3 of those organisations very successful. So what is it that makes them take action, and what is the route to action? So, you know, what do you think? What is the route to action? What is the only route to action that we all have? No? The only route to action is you. It's people. The only route to action is people, but we spend loads of time listening to it is technology, it's other things out there, you know, systems, all of this sort of stuff. But it's rubbish. The only route to action is a person saying they want something to happen and then making it happen. And then the people around them making it happen with them. Okay, so it's no different in logistics. You need somebody to stick their neck out and say, we're going left, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to go and deliver. So we're going to have a look at that a little bit and say, well, okay, how have people done that over time, and how does it work? So if you have a look at this, you know, for me, it's this thing about people are the key. And if you don't know how to manage the people resource around you in your organisation and get it to deliver for you, then you aren't ever going to deliver a result. Okay, so you can spend all your time in lectures listening about all great technology and cool Elon Musk, but what he's really doing is managing people really well. Here's a guy that managed some action really well. So I'll give you another example. We get back to my space race bit. So in the late 50s, Russia was frightening America to death because it managed to get into space quicker than they did. It had Sputnik flying around the world. beeping back signals. People could hear them on the radio, and there was panic in America. So Kennedy had to do something. So he stood up, and at Rice Field in 1962, he said, we choose to go to the moon, and we choose to do it in our decade, and we will achieve it. And he said, we choose to go to the moon, so you didn't have a choice, you were going. Everybody was going. But there's a good point on that. We choose, he didn't choose. We choose to go to the moon. We're all going to go, guys. Let's go and do something and deliver it. And that's what he did. And what he did at the same time is he created the conditions for change. So he set up the organisation to allow it happen. He allowed some failure along the way. And he said, you know what, I know this isn't going to happen in a week, but it'll probably take a decade. So you've got till the end of the decade to do it, guys. And he set the conditions for change for people. He made it clear what they were going to do. But at the time that he did that, there wasn't a metal that could actually travel into space and achieve what he was talking about achieving. So he was standing up and saying he was going to deliver we were going to deliver the impossible and inspiring people to do it. Not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And that goal will serve to energise and measure the best of our energies and skills going forward. A great leader who really pushed for things to happen and change to happen around him. Now, normally at this point I show a video on this, but we've only got half an hour today. But go online, search some of the videos on YouTube about. Just listen to the speech and listen to the way that he enthuses people to go and do something that is absolutely impossible. Okay, it was impossible. Then they had the Apollo issue, Apollo 1 in 1967 with the big failure that I talked about, which then 2 years later transpired into landing somebody on the moon, because it brought the organisation together to go and do something and deliver. But unfortunately, they had to go through a massive failure before they achieved it. So failure is not a massively big problem for organisations if it's managed in the right way. So then I changed my slide pack a few weeks ago because this guy's doing it all over again. So if you don't believe me that you can go and create massive change out there, everybody looks at this and go, oh, this is the PayPal billionaire Elon Musk. He's got loads of money. He can do anything. What a load of bollocks, right? That is a load of bollocks. Yes, he's got the money to go and get some of this stuff moving, but I can guarantee there are loads of people working for him who are on less pay now than they were 6-12 months ago. Guarantee it. Because they go and work for him because he's got a goal, he's got a mission. He's saying, we are going to go to Mars. That's what we're going to do. And you guys are going to help us get there. And I don't know how to do it, but come along, make it happen. So he inspires people to do things, and he creates the conditions for change for them. And I don't know if you saw, this was Falcon Heavy launching a few weeks ago, and they launched the Tesla car into space. It's massively gimmicky, but is it inspiring people to go and do something? They just hear him cheering when they delivered it. They'll work for him to the ends of the earth. So you can achieve anything if you really want to. If you wanted to put a zebra on the moon, he would have done, wouldn't he, by now? And if you don't believe it, he doesn't even believe it, right? So this is his quote from 6th of February, and he basically said, crazy things can come true. So putting a zebra on the moon could happen, but crazy things can come true. Because he didn't even believe it himself, that they could land. So these aren't taking off, these are landing. So if you've seen this video, if you haven't seen this video, watch it. I wasn't quick enough to get it into my presentation. But these two booster rockets have been and taken that rocket up into space, and now they're coming back down again. They turn around, come back down, they land themselves side by side. It looks like an animation. It's freaky. Yeah, but he achieved it. And they've achieved it because they've said, well, it's impossible and we can't make this work and it's too expensive. And then they've all got their minds together and gone, well, you know what, if we fly them back and then we slow them down with the rockets themselves and we land them, we'll be fine, won't we? And they've achieved it in a couple of years. So they get, I was trying to get shares in this company, but he's not selling shares in the company. And he's not selling shares because he's worried that as soon as he sells shares, they'll change the attitude of the business to not go to Mars and go and do something more constructive, probably. Okay. No, we're a great guy. And my point is, a leader is very, very important, but a leader is not necessarily made. It's somebody. It's not. Stop looking at other people as leaders. Become leaders yourself. Make decisions. Make things happen. And if that's in logistics or transport, fine. If it's in another area, you are the people that can make it happen. But then next, it's the team and the team around you that are going to make it happen as well. So the other thing that you've got to do is share. So if you watch Elon Musk, when he's talking about things, he's a real sharer. You know, he's a proper, you know, well, we're not sure how we're going to do that. And, you know, we've got this problem at the moment. We really are going to have a problem when we try and do this. But he talks these things through, and you can imagine him talking through them with the team and allowing people to share their problems and say, look, it's not working, it's not working. And then and listening and getting things to happen. So sharing your challenges, being a leader isn't about bottling it all up and fixing it all yourself. Create the environment for change. Yeah, so we all know about the Google office, and everybody's seen the slides and all that. So I've been in the Google offices. You know, they were great. Equally, some really boring bits in the Google offices as well, guys. But you know, there's some great environments that people are working in. Happened a long time ago. If you ever get a chance, have a look at a book by Ricardo Semza. He was a guy that set up. He was part of a Brazilian company that he inherited. Lots of union issues and all that sort of stuff. And he decided that to try and get his business going, he talked to the colleagues about the problems with the business, let them create an environment they wanted to work in. They managed their production lines in a different way. You could put a palm tree down your production line if you wanted to make it a nice, enjoyable area to have a cup of tea at the end of his shift. You know, do what the hell you like, so long as we get the job done. And he had fantastic results from it, and that was back in the sort of 80s. So, you know, these things aren't new. We're seeing them now as new. Create the environments. And then you can do it in a logistics environment. So that might not look like an amazing environment. You have an amazing environment here at the uni, you know, as you walk through for you to study in. This normally in a warehouse, you get a couple of plastic chairs and a Formica table, because we basically say that people who work in warehouses, they shouldn't have a great environment to work in. They just work in a warehouse. You know, it should be roughy-tufty, and it should be crap, quite frankly. Well, if you give people crap, they'll treat it like crap. You know, give them a great environment to work in that's, you know, fun and interesting, and they'll do a great job for you. And this is what we've done in some of the logistics environments, you know, to try and just make places nicer to work, and you get a great response from the people when you do it. Collaboration, right? Collaboration is the death of all businesses. People don't naturally collaborate. They don't want to talk to each other. I've got a great idea, but I'm not going to share it. That department's, you know, they're a pain, but they always pass the baton to me, and it's rubbish, and, you know, everybody blames everybody else. Just like the Apollo 1 space mission, when nobody would admit blame for that problem and wanted to. So, you know, collaboration is extremely important, and it isn't natural. So let's watch a bit of a video on that one. Hopefully you'll relate to this one.
The problem appears to be unsolvable. Maybe we could run some computer simulations.
There are too many variables. It would take forever.
We've got to be missing something. Let's start again. The movie is playing here at 7:20, here at 7:40, here at 8:10, and here at 8:45.
All right, these theaters have to be eliminated.
Why? They're state-of-the-art, digital projection, 20-channel surround sound.
Yes, but they have no icy machines. Despite my aggressive letter writing campaign, I might add.
What about the multiplex here? The seats are terrific.
They have Twizzlers instead of Red Vines. No amount of lumbar support can compensate for that.
Well, it's going to take at least an hour to eat, and I don't see a Sheldon-approved restaurant proximate to a Sheldon-approved theater.
We could eat after the movie.
Unacceptable. The delay would result in tomorrow morning's bowel movement occurring at work.
Hang on. There's a 7-Eleven here. We smuggle Slurpees, which are essentially ices, in under our coats after having a pleasant meal either here, or here.
Wow. I don't see how we missed that.
Excuse me, in what universe are Slurpees ices?
That's how we missed it.
Sheldon, would you be prepared on a non-presidential basis to create an emergency ad hoc Slurpee icy equivalency?
Oh, Leonard, you know I can't do that.
Okay, I guess we only have one option.
Yep, I don't see any way around it.
Bye, Sheldon.
See ya.
They'll do.
They're right, it was the only option.
Our whole universe was in a hot, dense...
Yeah, good old Sheldon. So, but you know, joking aside with that, That is how organisations work. That is it. Somebody has an opinion that is opposing to other people, and then for years they don't move forward because people won't challenge it, or the way the organisation works doesn't allow the information to flow and the right things to happen. So, and you'd be amazed how that affects all. I've worked in 4 or 5 FTSE 100, 250 organisations now, and all of them have those issues. All of them. The best organisations I've worked in, I won't say which one it is out of those, it was a more recent one, had a fantastic team working together. We had a situation where we had 4 or 5 directors who really did work and live very closely together in that organisation. We took that organisation through a massive period of change together because we all pointed in the same direction, we all wanted the same thing to happen. We didn't email each other, we didn't do cover your arse emails. In fact, if I received those kind of emails, then those people probably wouldn't be around. And you got things done and you made things happen and people didn't get in the way. And I can bet you they're not using that much email in Elon Musk's organisation, would you think? I bet there's not many CCs going on there in the emails trails. So, there are ways of dealing with these things using the new technologies though. So, one of the organisations I was working with within the Travis Perkins Group, we built a social community where we had all of the stores and all of the warehouse people and all of the buyers all on the same system, so that essentially if there was ever any issue out there, and at the end of the day these businesses are about running stores, so if there was ever a problem with a customer or a problem with product, instead of somebody trying to phone up and spend 3 hours trying to work out how the hell they were going to get that problem solved, or maybe 3 days before they got an answer to a problem or found the right person in a 25,000 person organisation, they just posted the issue onto the community. And the peer pressure within the organisation, because we could all see it, was that issue is right at the coalface of our organisation. It better be fixed quickly. We went from problems being solved in 3 days, if you were lucky, if they were ever solved, to nearly all the problems being solved in 30 minutes. And that organisation changed substantially through that. Email reduced massively, time was spent on the right things, and we used social technology to achieve it. So, all these new technologies are fantastic, but how are you going to apply them differently in your organisation? That only happened because one student who I was working with at the time suggested that as a solution to a problem, and we went with it and we put it in play, and it completely changed the organisation. It didn't come from the top, it came from the mid to bottom of the organisation and made a huge difference. So, our Zebra as well. One of the other things you've got to do in organisations is make it easy to see progress. So Elon Musk is a master at this, isn't he? Absolute master. He's up there every year with, look what we've done, we've achieved this, we've moved forward. In fact, one of the booster rockets didn't land effectively. It crash landed in the sea or around the launch pad, the receiving pad they had in the sea. Not really seen a lot about that. Seen an awful lot about the 2 that landed really well. But he's great at managing the media, he's great at managing his team and focusing on success so that it happens again and again. Make it easy to see progress. You can do this in a logistics environment. I was in one environment, and what we did was wherever there was change in that organisation and we had everybody engaged in a massive change programme, we used a zebra stripe sticker and put it wherever change had happened around the organisation. Oh my God, literally the place was covered in these things within a year. But it meant that visibly people could see what had happened and some change had taken place in that part of the organisation, which wouldn't naturally be visible. So how do you visualise change? It's really important for leaders and for colleagues in an organisation. And this is another one just to take a note of. At the end of the day, most organisations are there to create a return for shareholders. It might be that it's about a return on capital, cash returns, it may be profit. But effectively, speaking the language of profit is very important. It's almost, people treat it as a bad thing. I shouldn't really talk about that in an organisation. We're just here to do good. But actually, no, we're here to make money. So when people come to you and they say, well, utilisation is at 78% today and blah, blah, blah. Well, actually, does that mean that actually I'm losing £3 because that area is not that important? Or does it mean I'm losing £3 million a year? Well, convert your numbers into cash, convert your numbers into pounds. And that way, you'll get people to engage and make a difference. So if you want a director to get behind your programme or whatever it is you're doing, convert your language into one they understand. And I tell you now, they understand cash and they understand profit. So, you know, I wish I knew that in my career 20 years ago, because it would have moved forward a lot quicker. Okay. And I suppose then the point is, who is going to drive change within these organisations? And the reason I do this for logistics talks, because you might say, well, what the hell's I expected to see more about logistics. Well, this is logistics. Logistics operations are thousands and thousands of colleagues. And I call them colleagues because they are my colleagues. They're not staff. They're not bods people. They are my colleagues. Yeah, they're just as important in the organisation as a director, as anybody else. Just as in the space race, the cleaner said, I'm mopping the floor, and when they said, well, you know, what do you do for a job? Or somebody said to him, what do you do for a job around here in NASA? And they said, I'm helping to get a person on the moon. Yeah? And you need to get that kind of feeling into your organisation, because I'll tell you now, if you get 4,000 people all pushing in your direction, you achieve an awful lot, and I've proved it in a number of organisations over time. So if you're on a logistics course, a transport course, you will be dealing with thousands of people in your career, and you better learn how to do it and to do it well, because that will make the biggest difference to all of your careers going forward and your organisations. We're all a bit wrapped up in technology, aren't we? So I'm going to finish with this guy, which hopefully will inspire you to go on and make a change.
This one goes out to the heroes. Everyday heroes! Yeah, I'm talking to you. You probably are like, I'm not a hero, you're talking to the wrong person. And I'm all like, you're talking to your TV. So listen up. I think you're a hero and you don't even know it yet. Maybe you're like me, you look in the mirror and you don't really see a hero. You look and you just see a regular kid. A really good looking regular kid. But you're a hero. Whether you're a kid or a grown-up. You're way more than you might think you are. You're more than your problems and you're more than your mistakes. Somewhere inside, you're a hero. You might not have a cape or wear underwear outside your clothes. That's probably a good thing. You have everything right now to change the world. Everything! Heroes are just ordinary people who've done extraordinary things. They inspire other people to be extraordinary. People like Nathaniel. He's 12 years old and he's now okay with the fact that there are people in the world who don't have clean water. He raised enough money to help 30 schools in Central Africa. Madison. When she was 15, she created a beauty pageant for boys and girls that have special needs because she wanted to celebrate real beauty. My friend Bob. He's 55 and he's living out love in so many different ways. Right now he's working on building a school so kids in Uganda know they're loved. Kids can change the world and grown-ups can change the world. It would go a whole lot faster if we worked together. Heroes are made when ordinary people like you and me decide to be extraordinary. Or extra ordinary. Extra ordinary. That's too many extras. Here's what I'm trying to say. If you want to be awesome, treat people awesome. It's about strength. Firepower! Not like picking up a car kind of strength. I'll pick it up and just drop it and go like, oh, he's so nerdy, but so strong. I want to go out with him. He can pick up a car. But it's not about that. I'm talking about compassion. Nothing stronger than that. It's what changes things. So who's been a hero to you? Da-da-da. Parents? Teachers? Friends? Let them know. Heroes don't always know that you're heroes. We all need reminders. The little things that we do are a big deal. Heroes are people in our lives who see us what we really are. Awesome. Did you hear that? I said it. You're awesome! You're awesome! You don't need a cape and you don't need money. You don't even need to be bitten by something radioactive. You just need to care. And if you are bitten by something radioactive, you should go to a doctor, sir. It'll make your pee green. It would be cool to fly or be part spider or be part squirrel. I don't think part squirrel is a thing. Is that a thing? Like a man squirrel? But you're already filled with superpowers. So don't wait for a signal in the sky. Look a little closer at the world around you. You're ready right now. It's time to be the hero that you're meant to be, Cape. What are you not okay with? Think about it. Now, what do you have? And who can you bring with you? Everybody! 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 You have everything that you need to make someone's day more awesome. Someone may never have told you this, but I promise it's true. The world needs heroes, and that hero could be you. That hero could be you. And that hero could be you. Yeah. Let's do this.
Good old kid president. Okay, love a bit of kid president. But you'll be surprised how 6'2", guys working in a warehouse, at 12 o'clock at night, who are freezing the nuts off in, wherever it is. If you go and present to them at 1 o'clock in the morning in this way about some of these subjects, will actually get behind you and really deliver change in your organisation. You won't do that sitting in an office clicking on a bit of technology. Okay, so really important, whether it's in logistics, whether it's in your careers elsewhere, that, take some of the themes out of today. Who knows, you might be trying to put a zebra on the moon. Elon may well do that before too long, but if you wanted to achieve it, stand up there, go for it, and get the people behind you to deliver it, and you will. And that's my experience. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much, Robin. Insightful, motivating. I wanted to wear my cape tonight, but they wouldn't let me. But thank you very much. If you don't mind, I think what we will do the questions at the end, because just conscious of time. Thank you very much, Robin. And moving on, Martin Elliott. Welcome, Martin. Martin is a solutions manager at Logistitex. And sorry, I said that completely wrong, didn't I?
Yes.
I'll let you say it properly. And Martin's going to talk about innovation and technology in the logistics and supply chain. Thank you.
Thank you. And the gentleman here hopefully is going to change my slides. So, for something totally different after Robin, thank you. I think it was more to do about change and to do with people and motivation. I'm just going to come down to boring old technology. Sorry, that's me. So two quick points. One point is, I'm not Mark, I'm Martin, but that's a minor thing. Zara is one of our projects, which is really good because they are really expanding, and as you say, they've got a different mindset in the way that they operate as well. They've actually centralised everything from a global perspective. So it will be interesting for you separately to find out how they do their supply chain in this changing market. Yes. So who are we? Who are Logistics? I've only got one slide on this. We're a solutions provider in simple terms, an integrator of technology. We don't manufacture anything. Yeah? Technology is changing so fast at the present moment, it's very difficult to keep up with it. So really you've got to have a vision and openness to work with your customers, to know exactly where they're trying to go and understand their strategy, their business strategy. What we do is that, as I say, I'm in charge of the solutions department within logistics. We have, the only product that we have is our brain, which is the warehouse management system, control systems, which controls the solution. We obviously deliver, we don't just preach, we deliver what we believe is the right solution for customers, and then we give it a lifetime support. What are customers really looking for? What they're looking for from us to achieve is to improve order accuracy. I know we're going to talk about e-commerce and what's happening and the changes with that, but I think we're all at a point now where even getting it same day, it's more about, and the recent survey is showing, it's more about not just getting it the same day, it's getting it on time in the right place so that we're around to actually collect it. So, increase visibility, reduce complex IT, fulfill more orders faster, increased margins and profitability for the order, and improved customer service and satisfaction. So that's what we do. However, innovation brings change. A little bit of history, I suppose, going back a bit. The steam train came through, it connected people faster. As you can see, the old stagecoach, it was 4 days, and now in the 1880s became 4 hours. Got Pony Express. That was only lasted 19 months before the telegraph came in the USA. And then we was able to connect it from the States through into Europe. The motor car, yes, back in 1885 we got the first motor car, and that made a major change as well. But there was innovation in that, with the train, with the connection of land and the motor car. What has that meant from a supply chain point of view? Change is really fast at the present moment, but a lot of the principles that we see today in logistics have actually been around due to a world war, back in the World War II. 60 years ago, these things started to appear, which is sea containers. Now, the biggest one has now docked last year. About 11,000 40-foot vehicles is on one of those tankers. Unbelievable. Kanban was introduced from the Japanese, primarily for the automotive industry. I think the thing that we've been seeing also is in supply chains is it's become global. And being global, you're taking your brand with you, and they're putting their brand around the world. That's because we are able to connect better land, air, and sea. Is it a threat or an opportunity, this innovation? What is the big next innovation? What will the implications be? But we've all been asking this same question for some time. So, I'll put in a video, just a bit of history about innovation.
Since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, fear of automation has been on the rise. In the early 1800s, textile workers in England got spooked by the rise of weaving machines and sparked a rebellion so intense that the military had to be called in to put it down. When the automobile was invented, people worried about what it would mean for the horse industry. And when the first computers were introduced, office workers fretted about bookkeeping and other jobs that had previously been done on pen and paper. And who could blame them, really? Those machines were coming for their jobs, man. But if you think about it, most of the great inventions of the past 200 years have been designed explicitly to take our jobs. And yet, the fraction of people in the workforce is near an all-time high. So what gives? If machines keep taking our jobs, and they do, then why are there so many jobs left over? What are we getting wrong? The fear of machines goes back even further than the Industrial Revolution. When the printing press was invented in the 1400s, people worried about the church scribes that would be out of work. Back in the 1500s, Queen Elizabeth vetoed a patent on a knitting machine for fear that her subjects would lose their jobs. Whenever a new technology arrives, we can easily see what jobs it might replace. The problem is that we're really, really bad at envisioning what kind of new jobs might be born in the future. For example, it's true that computers eliminated the need for typesetters who used to place type by hand, but they created demand for graphic designers who set type, well, it's still technically by hand, but it's fancier. The idea is that when we passed off some of the workload to machines, it broadened the scope of what was possible. We came up with new ideas, new innovations, and new kinds of work. In fact, many of the industries that are around today, like electronics, health, medicine, finance, and insurance, barely existed or didn't exist at all a century ago. I mean, imagine trying to explain what an app developer does to someone in the 1960s. But focusing on machines that will replace jobs doesn't appreciate how they might actually strengthen them. For example, when ATMs started rolling out in the 70s, they threatened to make human bank tellers extinct. But banks quickly found that ATMs made it cheaper to open new branches, and the result was more branches and more tellers than ever. Since the arrival of ATMs, the number of bank tellers has doubled. Why? Well, once bank tellers were freed up from dispensing cash, they started forging relationships with customers, solving problems and introducing them to new products like loans and investments. The net effect was that bank tellers became more valuable to banking. But that's the past. What about the future? Automation is accelerating and spreading to more industries faster than we've ever seen before. Machines are increasingly replicating skills that we once thought were unique to humans. AI algorithms are trading in the stock market, recommending products to us, and guiding airplanes through the sky. Robots are being developed that someday might be cooking your meals, running warehouses, or performing surgery all by themselves. So, is this time different? Luminaries like Elon Musk seem to think so. He's predicted that soon, robots will be able to do everything better than us. And Stephen Hawking has warned that artificial intelligence will replace humans completely. Lots of people seem to think it's only a matter of time before these ever smarter machines make most of today's workers obsolete. So, should we be worried? So, is it different this time? Well, yeah, it's different this time. Just like it was different after the printing press was invented, or the assembly line, or tractors, or computers, or any invention that changed the world. All of these new technologies transformed the way we work, and adjusting to them wasn't simple, costless, or immediate. But if the past is any indication, this radical leap forward in technology is at least as likely to create jobs as it is to destroy them. Even if these new jobs might sound as strange to us as an app developer does to someone who's never seen a cell phone before. Put simply, there's no way for us to understand right now what those new jobs might be in the future, and for many, that's a frightening leap to take. So what do you think? Should we be worried? Or is a fear of 21st century automation once again getting it wrong?
Let's see, let's take it a bit further. So, logistics is getting faster. Why? Well, let's just take a typical supply chain. Yeah, you've got your supplier, you've got the warehouse, you've got the shop, and you've got the consumer. Obviously, the consumer in today's world or past world, last 10 years, you went to the shop to actually get what you wanted. You viewed it, you touched it, and you took it home with you after you purchased it. However, what's been happening is more and more the supply chain at this end has had to get better than doing weeks. It's had to come down to days. Yeah? The time from the warehouse to the shop has actually pretty much stayed static. But we, the consumer, want it quicker. But the pressure has always been on the cost of that infrastructure. So, with the interconnected data logistics world that we all live in and the connections that we can get very quickly, this supply chain is changing dramatically. Don't quite know where it's going to get to, but if we take the same thing again, then that connectivity that we get with the amount of units used in the iPhone and the iPad that's out there at the present moment and the computers that we've got, what's happening is we can see that we can actually get the product from the supplier. We've got other supply chain routes that are coming in now, and we can actually get the product direct from a supplier. What effect is that going to have on the warehouse? At the present moment, just around the corner from where we are here, we've got Marks and Spencer's with the Castle Donington facility. It's a massive regional distribution centre. There's national distribution centres. Yeah? We want it faster. We want it same day. You can't have this 100 miles away. You've got to have this almost in your backyard. So the types of actual warehousing that's being developed and thought of now is totally different. You've also got to think about that ship that was actually bringing the product across. You know, we've got to get that product quicker. 3D printing is one thought. There's other technology that's being thought of is that the supplier is actually going to be you. You online will actually be able to develop what product that you want and produce it. So there's going to be a massive change to what's actually happening within this supply chain. As I say, if you think about it, and Robin actually brought this through with things like Tesla. You know, it's a new business. You've got good leadership. You look at these three businesses that I'm showing here. Amazon's been around for the last 24 years. Look what that's done to you. We talked about Amazon Prime just a moment ago. Yeah, we want it now. Yeah, why didn't you think what I wanted and make sure I got it before I even wanted it? Yes, Uber into the marketplace. What a difference that's made to the taxi firm around the world. Airbnb, with the disruption they've now done to the hotel and the bed and breakfast business. They're actually starting a pilot at the present moment where we have warehouses, which some of them are empty. They're going to sell that space. Autonomous logistics. Obviously, this is the area of technology that's being talked about pretty much every day in the papers. Yeah? In the air with drones. You know, Amazon talked about this, I don't know, about 5 years ago, drones, and we all laughed at it. They're around. They're actually being used. In warehouses, we have them for stock taking. If the warehouse has gone quiet, you can put your drone around and actually check all the product that you've got and make sure it's up to is accurate as well. Medical supply. DHL have quite a number of these in Scandinavia, going from hospital to hospital with blood and medical supplies. Yeah? The military are actually looking and developing them, which can actually lift a 40-foot container. If that happens, and coming back to space that you was talking about earlier, I think the next development that Mr. Musk is doing, he's trying to get a bigger robot. And he's talking about putting bigger payloads into it. You put those bigger payloads into it, where's he going to go? He's going to put his rocket round the world, is he? Dropping off in Australia and America on the way round. Don't know where it's going. On the ground technology. Obviously, we know Google Car, the Google driverless vehicles. We've also seen more and more development of the last mile and how you're getting the product to you, to your property. I'll show a bit more in videos later. Autonomous ships. They're making them bigger and they're going to be driverless. I think this was quite an interesting bit of data, if I put it that way. You can see on there the yellow, the population in millions, in how over, since 2003 to 2020, the estimate of the population is going from 6.3 to 7.3. Just over 1 billion increase. But look at what's happened with the internet connection devices and also the internet connection devices you each have. Yes? It's not just one device, you have many devices. Even in your house, you've probably got Amazon, was it called Echo, that you can actually talk to. You've also got now fridges which have got computers on board. Where's it going? Robotics and automation from a warehousing point of view has been around a long time. We've been able to design goods-to-man systems with cranes, shuttles, and automatic guided vehicles. But even in this market, in this area, it's changing vast, which we'll look into in a little bit more detail, yes? So there's a huge opportunity for robotics and automation to develop even further. But what are those influences? I've started to talk about some of those influences, which is the e-commerce. However, there is the problem with the aging market that we have in labour at the present moment. We've also got to think about, with the e-commerce, 2020, China will be the biggest e-commerce market, bigger than the UK, America, Germany and France. We've also got to think about the cost of actually picking that item and getting it to you. The cost of that versus a retail outlet is actually much higher. Technology, we talked about putting people on the moon back in the 70s. Look at the cost of memory, dollars per gigabyte. $734 million was the cost to actually put a man on the moon at that time for memory. And now look at the cost of it today. So from a robotics point of view, memory and software is much cheaper now, so that actually the brains are better. So we can actually do more. It's just the mechanics to hold it together. The eyes, cameras, we can actually view and take pictures and actually help the robot itself. Final bit is, obviously, because everybody's into robotics, there's a lot of people investing into it at the present moment. Governments are doing it. Not just the governments, but people like Google. As I showed earlier, there's the Google car, also Google Glasses, which is actually helping from a picking point of view as well. Amazon bought 2010, a company called Kiva, which was a robotics company. They've now got 30,000 of these robots running around their warehouses around the globe on their sites. JD.com, I think it was either this week or last week, announced a $2.5 billion investment into robotics and automation. So, what is your perspective of robotics and automation into this logistics world? Will it replace the workforce? Could do. Is it more that we're trying to actually give the opportunity to keep the same people but get more out of them? But let's think about what this future supply chain could look like. You know, last year or beginning of this year, Amazon announced and went with this Go Shop. It took them about 18 months to develop this.
4 years ago, we started to wonder, what would shopping look like if you could walk into a store, grab what you want, and just go? What if we could weave the most advanced machine learning, computer vision, and AI into the very fabric of a store so you never have to wait in line? No lines, no checkouts, no registers. Welcome to Amazon Go. Use the Amazon Go app to enter. Then put away your phone and start shopping. It's really that simple. Take whatever you like. Anything you pick up is automatically added to your virtual cart. So how does it work? We used computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in self-driving cars. We call it Just Walk Out technology. Once you've got everything you want, you can just go.
Shouldn't have stopped there, but doesn't matter. I think you got the basics of that. The thing that you wanted you to think about is when that is going, just to think of the technology that's behind that. Yeah, and all you're seeing is somebody just to take an item and put it in a bag. But then think about it a bit further and say, what happens when that stock is empty? How do I replenish all of that? Yeah. So you've got to think about the full cycle of things and not just what the visual thing is trying to show you. So some other things that are happening. One of the big problems that we have is containers when we unload them, yes?
No matter if you work with single, snake or mixed load containers, different size boxes and other types of goods, the technology has been designed to unload and palletize your goods fast and efficiently. One operator can empty a container in approximately 1 hour, just by using 2 joysticks and a touchscreen. At the same time, the load is automatically palletized for storage. Any stacking pattern is possible.
I'll just see that again, but with another so easy when you've got a box that's exactly square and the same size, isn't it? Yes? The day-to-day is never like that, yes. But it's coming. That's the thing. It's being developed. So let's have another look at another piece of technology, vision picking, and also on here is another bit
Now
of
the order
picking
picker
robot.
can easily log in and begin picking by scanning the next available trolley. Using UbiMax's innovative user interface, task information is displayed clearly in front of his eyes. The trolley is also displayed graphically, so that the picker sees instantly what needs to go where. This could provide a much faster, more accurate, and user-friendly approach to order picking compared to standard paper pick lists and handheld scanners. Our first pilot proved a significant performance increase due to time efficiency and error reduction. It also received high scores from the pickers regarding user acceptance and usability.
I mentioned about these videos seem to be just cutting off. They're not doing the full length, but it doesn't matter. We're getting the gist of things here. Go to the Kiva, which is what what Amazon are using. Probably see from that with the previous one, when the person was picking on the shelf, there was just a few boxes. The thing that you've got here is you've got a shelving bay which is pretty much the same size as the previous one, but look at how many products are actually available for this picker. And also not just on the two faces, but they put long items into the back there. So from a picking point of view, you've actually got 200 items there instead of 2 or 3 or 4 items on a standard shelving system. So this is how we're getting to be able to pick more orders quicker and faster. Another one is that robots are now in the workplace in terms of giving support to pickers, as well as there are robots that actually do pick as well in their own right. This is a video just on Fetch.
Robots don't
providing
take jobs,
support
they take
to
tasks,
a
and they work collaboratively with people to do those tasks.
Fetch robots help take a package from point A to point B, so the pickers, the workers pulling the items from the shelves, don't have to waste time on the transport.
If a picker 6 times an hour walks 4 minutes to a consolidation area, that means 24 minutes of their time is now not being used.
Together with Affidance, we are introducing a unique solution to support our employees in their daily work and to improve efficiencies within the picking process. Collaborative automated order picking is the next step in improving warehouse operations. Pickers will be supported by automated carts, taking care of most of the physical activity. These carts enable pickers to work without undue exertion. The picking cart follows the picker through the rack system. Before the cart reaches full capacity, the picker simply sends it to the drop-off location. Meanwhile, another picking cart joins the picker, ready to receive new items. The cart's advanced wayfinding routine assures an independent journey to its destination. Sensors make the cart aware of its vicinity and possible obstacles. Therefore, collisions are prevented and safety is increased. Furthermore, this solution makes a more efficient and ergonomic picking process possible and enables the switch from single order to multi-order picking.
The next thing is robots have obviously come in. Part of the reason is that they've actually got a lot cheaper. The trouble is that the brain that's been in them has been hard-coded a lot of the time. This video here shows you the new way that
you grab its arm,
to do this.
and when you grab it by the wrist, it goes into what we call zero-G mode. So the robot is using its motors to compensate for its own weight. So it feels, when you're moving the arm around, it feels as if you're moving it through free space. So you can say, move over here, click a button, grab this, put it over here, and then let it down. And once you've done that, it can do it over and over and over again without any intervention from you. You've never touched a line of code or a mouse or a keyboard, anything like that. And oh, by the way, it's going to do it more efficiently than you, because what it's thinking about is not the steps. Like a traditional robot, you tell it steps. Go to coordinate 0, 0, 0. Okay, I'm there with the hand oriented like this. Now go to 1, 2, 3 with a theta orientation on the hand that looks like this. I mean, that's what the robot is internalizing. What the robot is internalizing in this case is the task. I mean, it's built on behaviors. It's built on these goal-directed computational entities that are focused around an outcome. What are you trying to get me to do? You're trying to get me to put something into a box. That's what it's thinking about. So then it can start to apply some of this intelligence in ways that say, you know, I'm packing the box, but the data would suggest I can pack it in a better way or a different way.
So let's try and pull some of that together. This is just a short video of a warehouse which is fully automated. At the end of it, tell me how many people you actually see working in this. How many? None. Oh dear. But as you can imagine, for that, it's a massive investment. And you've got to have the right people, as Robin's saying, with that right mentality and motivation to make this work, yes? You can't, you just can't turn this on. You've got to get everybody working in the right way. Other simple developments, or not simple, you know, we talked about Tesla.
No, this isn't a runaway truck, and no, it's not an outtake from the action movie Speed. This is a conventional 18-wheeler that drives itself, thanks to a $30,000 retrofit. San Francisco startup Otto, which Uber bought this summer, made history with this truck. It completed the world's first truck autonomous delivery, carrying 50,000 cans of Budweiser from a brewery in Fort Collins, Colorado, to Colorado Springs, 120 miles away. The human drove the truck onto the highway, flipped on self-driving mode, and spent the next 2 hours of interstate chilling in the back seat.
RoboVan, partnership between Starship Technologies and Mercedes-Benz Vans, creates the perfect synergy of transportation technologies for local delivery.
When the two transportation methods, robots and vans, converge into one, the result is the most efficient, cost-effective and convenient delivery system in the world.
The RoboVan is a first-in-the-world transportation system that comprises of self-driving delivery robots developed by Starship Technologies and Mercedes-Benz vans that act as a mothership, and are configured to allow robots to enter and exit autonomously during delivery stops in the local neighborhood.
The mothership concept is the combination of the intelligent and innovative van with the smart and agile robots of Starships. It will really be a quantum leap when it comes to last mile logistics.
The specially adapted Mercedes-Benz vans stop in designated areas in the local neighborhood for loading and unloading of the local fleet of delivery robots. For delivery to be carried out as efficiently as possible, the best stop for the van is calculated based on the location and the status of all the robots within the area. The RoboVan can hold 8 Starship delivery robots and has multiple baskets above the robots for storing the goods for that particular area. The robots autonomously drive into the van for loading by the driver, and once loaded, autonomously drive out the other side of the van for delivery to the customer. The loaded robots can thus be sent on their way as a free-floating robot fleet to deliver their cargo safely and reliably within a radius of up to 2 miles.
Still need the van driver who then loads them to send them off, yes? But I'm sure that might change as well. I've been given the cue that I need to speed up, so I will do. So, opportunities for logistics professionals. Fundamentals of logistics hasn't changed. That's what I've been talking about, I suppose, right away thing. The 7 R's, yes. Somebody got it? The 7 R's. Question is, how does it happen? You're still going to have operational managers, facilities and project management. We still need people to think outside of the box, that can think about continuous improvement. Simulation emulation has grown tremendously with VR as well. We use it a hell of a lot because customers who may not have that vision want to see the simulation working and make sure with live data, their live data, that it will actually work. Yes? Systems is changing all the time. I'm not going to show this video. You've probably seen these before, and this is one in Dubai, which is a visual shopping wall, yeah, which you can actually have multiple users actually using this. It segregates, yes, and then you've got to start thinking, okay, I've ordered my items here. How do I get them delivered? Do I get them in the mall where they've actually done, or do they get them delivered to my property? The other thing that's interesting, that they've taken this technology to try and get people back to shops, that this has become a voucher wall, so that you can go into there, know the shops, go onto it, hit the thing and see what discount vouchers are available. And you download that onto your mobile, walk into the shop, buy the item and get the discount. In shops as well, some of the technology that we've had in warehouses for years is now in the shop. Present your prescription, get your goods. Sort of, since we've been talking here, and I talked about earlier how China is actually changing things so rapidly, and the Amazon Go scenario. But in China, they've already done and built Amazon Go. Many bigger, they've not just got one store, they've got 30 stores. They've even taken the concept the next stage. It's a great time to get involved, isn't it? It's changing so fast, you can't keep up with it. So trying to sum up with what we're doing, start thinking about the other side, waste. Yes, waste management. From the bottom here to the top of the pyramid, we want to get away from disposal to prevention. The reverse logistics of e-commerce is phenomenal. You know, 10, 20, 30, 40% of what is actually sent out comes back. Yeah? If you look at ASOS this year, what ASOS are doing, they actually think of it differently. They actually provide you with a box of garments that they think you would like. And you pick and fit it, and whatever you don't want, you send back. We know about diesel, you know, oil situation, plastics. The FMCG businesses at the present moment are having a real think about this, wrapping up their product and putting it onto the shelf to send. That plastic's not going to be on there. How are you going to deal with handling that product in case loads and be able to use a robot to pick it? So there's a lot of thinking still to go on into this. So there is future opportunity for everybody. Power generation is going to change dramatically. Water is going to be the biggest concern that we're going to have as a nation for human beings. Labour. At the present moment, the FTA have announced, the Freight Transport Association, they're 35,000 drivers short. That's the white van man on the road to do your e-commerce. Okay, last video, but what does it mean in the future? Yes?
In the future, will you draw a salary just for being you? Here at Forward Thinking, we've taken a look at some pretty disruptive technologies like 3D printing, artificial intelligence, automation. All of these have the potential to revolutionize our world, but revolutions aren't always smooth and painless. One of the big questions we have to answer is, how will we make money in a future where more and more of our jobs are taken over by the cold, unfeeling robotic hands of automated machinery? In a previous episode of Forward Thinking, we talked about a future where there is no such thing as money. It was the Star Trek economy. But if we're to get there, there's going to be some major changes that'll have to happen. And between now and then, one of those changes might be a guaranteed basic income. Now, the concept is pretty simple. A government will guarantee a certain amount of money to every eligible citizen. And generally speaking, it tends to be the amount of money that's around the poverty line for that country. The idea being that all of your basic needs like shelter, food, clothing would be met by this basic amount of money, and anything else you would want, you would have to go out and earn. This could be a huge help to people who are living below the poverty line. I think you can imagine that if you're homeless, it's very hard for you to get back on your feet if you don't know where you're going to be spending the night tonight. Imagine having just enough money so that you can cover those basic needs. That could give you the ability to go out and seek more work. And in fact, studies have bared this out. A study out of MIT and Harvard showed that giving money to people in impoverished nations in no way discouraged them from seeking out more work. So the fear that this would somehow create an entire population of lazy people seems to be unfounded. Other studies have shown that giving people money instead of money substitutes like food vouchers gives those people a sense of dignity and empowerment. So they do continue to try and seek out jobs or more education. And it frees you up to pursue other things like passion projects. In fact, a lot of technology enthusiasts envision a world with a guaranteed basic income that leads to an era of unprecedented innovation. But we have some big questions. The biggest being, will it work? Another being, how do you pay for it? How do you administer it? How do you make sure that the eligible people are actually getting the money they need? And the answer is, we don't know, because we haven't really tested it out yet. But in the next year or so, several different regions are going to be launching pilot programs to explore the possibility of basic income. They include Canada, Finland, Switzerland is having a referendum on the subject, and a nonprofit organization is looking to provide 6,000 Kenyans with basic income for between 10 and 15 years. This could be a long-term experiment to see what the ultimate impact is. And we have to keep in mind that even if basic income works in these pilot programs, it might not work everywhere. But we'll never know until we try. And the truth of the matter is, we still have to think about this question because, like it or not, one day automation is really going to displace a lot of people from the job market.
Sorry to end on that note. So hopefully that's enough. I've taken more than enough time. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Martin. Some very interesting history there as well, and lots of really interesting statistics as well, which is always nice to see in an academic environment to back up some of the things that have been talked about. Just let the crowd disperse just a little bit. Okay, our final speaker this evening, Peter Loudon, and Peter is the Solutions Director of Clipper Logistics, and going to talk about innovation and technology in last mile and customer insight. Thank you, Peter.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for allowing me the time to come and talk to you. I'm very passionate about logistics, the subject. Like Robin, I'm a member of the Institute of Logistics. There's also a few coincidences around. So Mark, or Martin, no, sorry. Martin is a supplier to our business, Clipper. So coincidence number one. Coincidence number two, I finished my A-levels and went to work in a bank in Manchester. Truth. Coincidence number three, honorary student of Derby University. Okay? What you don't know is that my wife, who's in the audience, brings home her lectures, workshops, etc., to use me as a guinea pig, which is okay, apart from when I'm asked to split into groups of 4 and go and look at the optimization of a warehouse. That's a bit unfair on me. So a little bit about Clipper, a little bit about me and things like that. So Clipper started about 25 years ago, one man in a van. Now turns over 450 million plus, profitable UK-based business with most of its operations in the UK, but growing presence in Poland and Germany. And we're renowned as the market leader in fashion logistics. So names that you would know, ASOS, John Lewis, Tesco.com, Asda, Amazon, etc., etc. So we've got quite a roster. We cover about 20 of the top 50 UK retailers. So I joined about 6 weeks ago. I'm having an amazing time. It's a brilliant job. So Business Solutions Director, it says on there. Let me tell you what a Business Solutions Director did today. Had a lie-in. I looked at a construction project for Zara to extend their capability. So that's another name that's on our roster. Did a pre-meeting conference call about potential acquisition of another business. Did a warehouse visit to a potential warehouse we might take on about 20 miles down the road. I then did the bid document and the financial evaluation for the same customer to go into that warehouse. And then I also looked at first cut on an automation proposal for one of the clients that I've just named. So in terms of the variety of the sorts of jobs you can have in logistics, and even in one job, it is a fantastic place to be. I started in the industry having left the bank, not enjoying it. We used to print checkbooks by hand, fold statements by hand, put them in envelopes. You don't know what a statement is, but trust me, they were horrible. But started as a driver, walked into a job centre, got a job as a driver, and the industry just takes you on. And if you have application, reasonable degree of intelligence, but also the right mentality, and the guys have talked about, you know, how you get people involved and how you get people to adopt the right attitude, then you can do unbelievable things in this industry. And this industry will always be needed. Another coincidence, I did a few coincidences before we get into the meat of this. I worked for Amazon as head of Click and Collect as my job just before Clipper. And I went to the Amazon Go store. Okay? So audience participation time. How many people work in the Amazon Go store? Shout a number out. It's okay. I counted 41 people. Do you know where they were? Behind screens. They were doing that. Okay? There are lots of engineers, lots of people doing food prep, so the impression that Amazon Go is as sort of touchless as what you've seen on the video is not quite borne out in reality. So clearly it was in a beta concept sort of stage, and it was staff only at that time who were allowed to use it. I bought a bar of chocolate for $7, by the way. $7. Yeah. Yeah. It didn't, no. You haven't worked for Amazon, have you? No, they don't do expenses. They don't do that sort of thing. But, you know, it's a fantastic concept, but it is heavily reliant upon amazing brains in the background. So the sorts of things that you've heard about, does automation and mechanization and all of these new applications and digitization and other Asians do not remove the need for people. They change the nature of what people will do. Okay? So that's what I'm going to do. How are we doing for time, Simon? Do you want me to do the short version? No problem. So thanks very much. Just get rid of that for me, thank you. So, start with customer insight. An Amazon trait. I worked for Amazon, sort of didn't like it too much, so I left. But there were some good things that I learned while I was there. And this seems blindingly obvious, but it's an absolute passionate mantra that they have, which is you start with the customer and work back. And just a bit of information for you as well as the way they do things. When they're going to launch something, they write the press release, or when they've even got an idea, they write the press release as if it's happening today. And what they do is they talk about the impact on customers. And they put phantom quotes in there from customers. They make up names, they make up the places where they live, but they'll say, Mrs. Jones from Swaddling Coat said that Amazon Go was the best thing she's ever done in her life because she used to hate getting her purse out, etc. They will write those quotes. They'll write the document, the press release. Then they'll write a Q&A, which can be 5 pages. So 1 page press release, 5 pages of Q&A. And there may be appendices that go on for ages and ages. But what they do is they focus on how will this impact the customer. So they'll start, you know, what will this service be like? What will it cost? How will you get it? Where will it start off? What's the geography for it? What's the justification for it? It'll go on and on and on, so that when they're discussing an idea, everybody does the same thing, which is, right, we're going customer, sitting in the shoes of the customer and go, right, okay, why? Why are we doing this? And they'll read in silence, okay? So nobody gets the document in advance. You start a meeting and you read in silence. This is the spookiest thing you've ever done in your life, believe me, because you sit there, and I think the record was 61 people on a conference call, reading in silence, for 40 minutes. Yeah. So it's a bit weird. But what it does is everybody is focused on the same thing. It's not reliant upon your preparation. What is hard is to read at the same speed as everybody else. And when you've got there and you're in a live meeting, because sometimes you do meetings with people, when you're in a live meeting, then you sort of try to look like you're still reading, because the boss, the senior guy, is still reading. Okay, so if he's still reading, you've got to carry on reading. Can't start looking at your phone and things like that. So start with the customer and work backwards. There, I'm talking about last mile and what's going on in that particular space. 90% of customers are tracking their orders. A statistic I couldn't believe. I've got some references which I'll share with the guys, so in terms of accrediting some of these stats, etc., you'll get everything that you need. But there's a general mantra, which is, I want my stuff. Amazon have led the charge in terms of delivery loyalty programs. And when you look at Amazon's rating, they lead the way. So 83% of customers say it's either excellent or it's good, which is an unbelievable sort of set of stats. And 79% of customers want their brands to reward their loyalty. So more and more people are getting more acutely attuned to this sort of things. And another key stat, if you've got a delivery loyalty program, then customers will rate you more highly. So they'll prioritize ordering from you versus ordering from X. And that varies by country. So US, it's 75%. They're much more mature in this particular space. Italy, it's about 59, 60%. So it ranges by country. Across a whole range of countries, about 12 different countries studied, it was about 55%. So the US leads the way. So in terms of what's going on in the last mile market, in the delivery market, these are some of the insights. People perceive that luxury brands deliver a more positive delivery experience. More customers deliver to home, but if you think about the sorts of people who are ordering luxury items, they tend to work less. They're more likely to have, they'll work at home, they'll have people at home who don't have to go out to work, etc. So they tend to attach themselves to those sorts of things. And they're less fussy about the cost of delivery. So amongst the people who shop on luxury brands, 37%, about just under 40% are bothered about cost, where in the normal marketplace, it's nearly 60%. So if you have more money, blindly obvious, if you have more money, you're less worried about the cost of getting things delivered. You actually just want it. What's also becoming more and more acute is the requirement for free delivery and returns. 1 hour and same-day delivery is on the rise. That's doubled in the last year or so in terms of the consciousness of I want it within a same-day frame. The difficulty you've got is that when Martin showed the graphic of hyper-localization of stock to customers to get it there faster to them, that then is a very expensive model to run. It's a very expensive model to run. So what retailers want more and more is a contribution towards that. So they'll want to charge for same delivery. Yet you've got this culture of, but I'm used to free delivery. And so there is a significant step. There's an ambition which is I want it, but there isn't the same. That's not matched by the ability to get it there quickly and cheaply, or even for the same price. In-flight diverts becoming more and more popular. Robin showed you the clip of DPD. DPD about 6 years ago now made a number of significant steps and brave steps in their technology. Spent about £2 or £3 million, which at the time was a lot of money. And they took the risk that in-flight divert would promote more business, but at the same time would make them less efficient on a route-by-route basis. On a route-by-route basis, what you're doing is actually constraining yourself a little and say, you know, I will be there, and if you tell me to do something, then I'll handle that item multiple times, and I'll do something with it, and I'll save it for the next day, or I'll take it to a shop, or I'll take it to your neighbour. So putting all of that choice in can make you less efficient. DPD took the gamble, and their turnover has doubled in that time. So they went from about 500 million turnover to well over $1 billion over the last 4 or 5 years. So, and then more and more customers are saying that they would want a single delivery. So they'd like somebody, some fantastic sort of solution, proposition, etc., to consolidate all of their online purchases and then bring it to them in one go. 71% of customers in the survey said, yeah, I'd like that. So let's talk about the evolution in last mile delivery then, because the guys have done a little history lesson, so I'm not going to be left out. It started off, which it wasn't really a delivery. If you go back into ancient history, then people just went and got, they get what I want. They got what they could catch, grow, gather, but they didn't really go anywhere. And then they would start to go to market, and they'd exchange stuff, and they'd grow things, and they'd take cows and all that sort of stuff. And then shops started to emerge, and then people would go there. But delivery still wasn't that prolific. You'd have a little shop boy who might do it in your local village, etc., but it wasn't there. But then 3.0, with mail order, and then internet and home delivery, then now deliveries have exploded. In the last 15 to 20 years, the amount of home deliveries has gone out of all recognition. There was a time when everything was around shops, and there were retail supply chains, and they were heavily utilized, but you went to the shop. That's changed. So I'm doing the 1.0, so let's go on to 4.0, because everybody's doing a 4.0 now, so why not? 4.0 is, as a consumer, I create the problems, and I expect you, logistics guys, to solve them with your big data thing that I don't quite understand, but I expect you to fix it. And do it for nothing. And if you mess it up, I'm going to tell everyone. And if your mobile site doesn't look particularly pretty, or it makes my phone go slow, then you're dead to me. Okay? And all my friendship group, because I'll tell them as well, I'll be on different apps, etc. And I want it now, or I might want it later. I haven't decided yet. So that's the challenge of last mile delivery 4.0. So in terms of where it's going, we've talked about the future in a variety of different areas. I separate this into innovations and increments. I'm not necessarily going to call out which one's which in this. So an innovation I see as a significant step where somebody takes a bold move, says, okay, let's do this. So you saw some of the Starship robots in the back of a Mercedes vehicle, etc. They roam around Milton Keynes. So if anybody wants to go down Milton Keynes and see them, they're running up and down. They scare the shit out of people. They are properly scary. There are, what would you call it? Cultural challenges with them. There are security challenges with them. If you're a teenager without a youth club or something to do, they're fair game, okay? So glossy images on videos with shiny Mercedes vans, etc., okay? But putting them through parts of Derby, I'm not sure is going to be the best thing. There are things that are going to happen when it comes to automation, robotics, in terms of moving deliveries. I think in the communication front, we've seen an evolution from people just ringing ahead, texting you. Now they send you loads of alerts and emails. Now you can track your parcel. So you now self-serve, whereas before people would contact you a lot. Now you just consume it as and when you need it when it comes to your delivery. There are lots of alternative solutions. For 4 years, I founded and ran a parcel shop business called Doddle, which is mostly centred in the southeast of England. And that was a dedicated parcel shop business. more and more people are using click and collect. Click and collect use has exploded. It started off as a bit of a con, okay, by the retailers, which was, hang on, instead of delivering it to their homes, what about if we incentivized them or just persuaded them to come into the shop? And then we could put those parcels on the vehicles that are going to the shop. Okay? Genius. And the public fell for it. And they're still falling for it, aren't they, Robin? Robin's run one of the largest click and collect fleets in the UK, so he knows exactly. He's slightly ashamed, but it's not too much. But that's actually what's happened. And more people are buying into that. And the benefit for the retailer is they get the footfall, and they get the ability to upsell, cross-sell, and to drive more value from that particular customer, drive more loyalty. But it's a bit of an imposition. So you'll fall into a number of camps of customers. It might suit you Saturday, Sunday. It might not suit you the rest of the week. What we're finding more and more is that more and more people want plural solutions. So there are 30-odd thousand parcel shops out there with Collect Plus, Hermes, Doddle, UPS, etc., etc. More and more people are getting on the bandwagon because the worst thing that you can do in logistics, in parcel delivery, is to take a parcel out and to bring it back. Okay? All the profit's gone. Okay? The customer satisfaction is terrible at that point. So that's the worst thing that you can do. So anything that you can do to build these new solutions, be they technological, advisory, alternative places, drop the item, which has got longer access, lockers. I ran a 2,000 locker network for Amazon. All of these things are adjuncts to the most preferred thing, which is home delivery. About 85% of customers say home delivery is my favorite. That's where I want it. But there aren't the infrastructure, there isn't the solutions unless you invent them. So one of the alternative solutions which you might want to look up, and I haven't done a video on this, but is worth a look at. My division in Amazon brought in Amazon Key. If you haven't heard of it, that is a new lock which is app enabled on your house, which allows the driver to scan the lock and walk in through your door, drop your parcel and walk out again. And when they were doing the initial surveys for that, what the clever part of it was not only would you like as a customer the ability to have your parcel delivered there, it started there, but then it spread from there. And it became, well, if you've got people who are fixing things in your house, if you want to allow access for one person on one occasion for one reason, you know, the plumber needs to get in, you're 50 miles away at work, Amazon Key allows you to allow access into your building, which is a major sort of step forward. It's a bit scary for people, but what you then have is the benefit of having an app on your phone where what they do is put the lock on and then give you a video camera. So you can also see how quickly the guy came in and out. Is the door open? Is it closed? Et cetera, et cetera. So they're trying to reinforce that application in slightly different ways. In terms of vehicle technology, you will see, okay, you heard it here first, you will see platooning. Anybody know what platooning is? Okay, so you'll see more and more vehicles traveling, okay, in groups, okay, with technology-enabled distance control so that you get massive fuel benefits. Okay, now that's on line haul vehicles on long distances, and some countries really lend themselves well to that. UK not so much. Australia amazing. Okay, US amazing. So you'll see more and more platooning. You will see self-parking vehicles. Okay, the driver will get out. He'll have a trolley full of parcels, and he will go up and down a high street, etc., and the vehicle will go and park itself. Okay, then the vehicle will start itself, and it will meet the driver at an agreed point. And the driver's got an app on his phone, and he's told where to go to meet the vehicle the next time out. You'll see reload pods, okay? You will see part of a vehicle going back to the warehouse, grabbing more parcels, and coming back and meeting the vehicle, okay? So the vehicle will split. Drones we've talked about. Drones, we are doing a number of things within our business this year, and one of them is enabling drones to do inventory control. To do that, you have to put RFID right through an organisation, every garment, You know, it's a huge undertaking. But the benefits you get on stock control, stock accuracy, what's in a store, what's in a warehouse, where it is it available, and then the ability for a drone to go up and scan it are fantastic, because that takes an army of people to do in ordinary circumstances. You'll also see, talked about enabling technology, you'll also see try before you buy much more extensively used. Okay, that is very much on the rise. Culture in the UK, we do it unofficially. We order 3 things, but you've actually been debited for most of those for items with most retailers. In different countries, it's cash on delivery. So you'll see a merger of those 2 things coming through. You'll see more clients in the way Simon's described, more customers sending items out. What do we think you would like? And we'll put it in a locker, we'll put it in your parcel shop, we'll deliver it to your home, and then you send back what you don't want. I mean, that's fantastic for us because we're one of the UK leaders in returns. So that's more processing income for us. From a consumer point of view, it's fantastic because one of the big drivers is we've debited your account, you didn't like it, you send it back, and then you're waiting for money to go back into your account. And at certain demographics, then that's a real pressure because you want to release that money and we want to do it for you so that you can spend it again with the same retailer. I've cut it short, Simon, so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter.
That's all right.
The roving microphone. Okay, it's kind of over to you now, guys. If we could ask our guest speakers to take a seat, and I think John, are you joining the team? I'll stand. I'll stand up as well. Before you sit down, John, would you just like to introduce yourself?
I think some of you know me, some don't. My name's John Day. I'm Programme Leader for Logistics. But for my sins, I've also spent more than half a lifetime in logistics. Moving boxes, basically. My absolute overriding passion is to change logistics from something that people fall into without thinking about to making it a career of choice. That's what I want to get out of logistics, and hopefully events like today contribute towards that.
Okay, so I hope you've been thinking of some questions and writing stuff down and have a few thoughts. So we'll just have open general questions, and I see a hand that's trying to get up there already. So yes, sir, over to you. If you wouldn't mind just saying your name and sort of not a life story or anything, but who you are. You a student? Are you working somewhere? What? 10 seconds worth.
10 seconds.
Is that on?
That's it.
Oh.
No singing.
Oh, right. My name is Todd. I've actually come out of employment to come into a full-time logistics and supply chain degree course because I needed it to progress my career. And my question, sorry, is that long enough? Is a life story?
That's fine. Perfect.
Okay.
Absolutely perfect. Yeah.
My question is to Peter. You talked about a lot of technological advances. What sort of timescale are we looking at? With all these reload vehicles and meeting your vehicle at another point. Is it something that's already happening, or is it in the future?
Yeah. My sort of insight comes from there's white papers the USPS, US Postal Service, have put together. So they've got vast, deep pockets, and that's where it's coming from. This is a 5-year horizon. This isn't a decade horizon or anything like that. So to answer your question bluntly, I'd say it's 5 years tops. Some things won't survive the course. They just won't work. But their aspiration is when they're looking at automation, they're looking at all of these different aspects. Because when you've got a workforce of 1 million people in the US, then a small fragment of an improvement anywhere can make a vast improvement to profitability.
Any other thoughts on that? Any disagreement with the timescale, or any major influences?
We've done lots of predictions, and I think a lot of this stuff will be delivered to you in that way, a lot faster than any of us think. So, but as we said earlier, it's down to some people making sure that they have the vision and they really want it to happen, and then it does. And the technology is out there to make it happen. It's great.
Okay. I guess the only thing I would add to that is it depends on this, doesn't it? I mean, these snuck up on us in, I think, 2010, something like that. Is that right? Who knows what's around the corner that we don't know about that may, of course, change the way that we operate. If we think about life without these, I remember having to press buttons to press it 3 times to change the letters on the text.
I remember when I used to take the car battery with me.
Okay.
They have no idea what you're talking
No.
about.
Thank Christ for that.
Yes, sir.
My name is Claude Bahati. I am studying Master's Supply Chain Improvement here at the University. My question is regarding technologies we have discussed today. And one thing is clear is that some of the technologies we discussed, they seem, of course, they're going to improve the efficiencies of both logistics and supply chain, and they're all connected, which is interesting. But one of the things we have not discussed is the security part of them. While they're connected and they're going to increase our efficiencies, how are we going to make sure that the security within those technologies are more resilient, to make sure that if we receive any cyber attack, we will be more resilient, we can be stronger, because some of the vehicles we have seen, automotive we have seen, if they were receive some kind of attack, the operations will stop and we won't be able to reach the end customer. So how can we ensure that we have a stronger resilience against the future attacks? Thank you.
Okay, excellent question.
I was going to say that's an excellent question. To a point, don't know. It's all in the cloud. It is one of the biggest challenges that we have is security. Any of the projects that we're doing at the moment, it always comes down to what security is in place. And I can't answer your question in one sense, in that my daughter even at the weekend had an attack onto her phone or her account. Yes, it's happening all the time. So security is a big issue, but other than putting it under your floorboards in the old days of looking after your money, because it is the money side of things, it's not just the technology. And businesses are always wanting to create profit at the end of the day. It is a big thing that we need to think about, is the security. So I don't have an answer, but for sure it is something that businesses are always looking at, is where else can they put their software, such that if there was an eventuality of a cyber attack or even a fire, that their business can start again tomorrow. The KFC situation at the present moment is a disaster, isn't it? Yeah, you can't go out of here and go to a KFC and be happy. Yes, so it is a major thing. So I can't give you an answer. My colleagues may be able to.
Anybody like to add?
I know you will have a view.
It's
Very
in
quickly.
space.
I think cyber attacks are happening all the time. So some form of denial of service attack is hitting this university, hitting all of our organisations on a regular basis. So there is an industry growing quickly around that whole area. I don't know enough about this. There will be people in the know more about it. But the nature of blockchain technology, whereby if you chop things up into much smaller bytes, so that you have less reliance upon a single pipe of data, information, capability, seems to be one of the answers. But you know, if you do your masters in it, it's a fantastic area, and there will be more and more people with the right skills required to do that. So fantastic question, and it's a live issue right now. It's not about these future applications. It's already in everything that's been done today. Who was it that went down? Was it TNT? Yeah, TNT. TNT had a massive outage, and it cost them millions. I was at Amazon at the time. TNT did about 10% of our volume. We stopped. We stopped that day. As soon as they had it, they kept promising to get back online. It took about 7-8 weeks to get back online, which for a overnight delivery company is catastrophic, and they will struggle to recover from that. So the reputations of organisations are heavily invested in keeping those things at bay.
Yeah, I think the big one that you spot on is this issue that we're all sitting in the environment now and it's all happening around us. So every large organisation is dealing with these attacks all the time. You just don't hear about it. And they might be quite small, but other times they're bigger issues. A lot of you in logistics and supply chain courses, you should be looking at how you build resilience into your supply chain. So ultimately, it may not be about the technology, it may be about the resilience you've built in. And it's quite interesting as we talk about, well, if everything's automated, how flexible, how resilient are you? If you're not automated, would an organisation, when there was a big failure that was less automated, actually be more able and more resilient than the one that was? There's an answer on a postcard. But this comes back to some of the points we're making, which is you can get absolutely overexcited, in my view, about the technologies. The technologies are enablers. You've still got to manage the whole entity and the whole operation and make sure it's resilient and it delivers on the promises that you're making to the customers, which is where we all need to start, as Peter said.
And have the flexibility as well.
Yeah.
I think that's the key as well.
I think another issue as well in global supply chains are becoming ever more complex, more and more organisations within those chains, and all of those organisations with different platforms. So the risk of any one platform being attacked or having technical issues brings the whole concept of chain any chain is as strong as its weakest link. One link gets broken, the whole chain goes down. Our supply chains are ever more complex, ever more risky. And again, I don't have the answer, which is why I'm sat here.
There is a whole area around simulation and resilience simulation and checking. I know one of the big ones that did that was with BMW when they had issues with the parts operation when there were the problems in Japan. And they found that they got single points of failure through their supply chains, which took down multiple car types in the factories and took them offline. But from one point of failure on a very simple component, because it was only produced in one place in the world. So they then started to think about, okay, how do I produce these in multiple places in case there's issues? And they had prediction software around where to place their factories and their products on the back of that. So these are they're great questions, because actually the thing that's going to really frustrate you and me is every time we ask a question, I'm going to pass it back and say, there's a great opportunity for you to go and create a business and be a leader of that kind of business out there, isn't it? Because we haven't got the answer to all these questions.
What I think might be quite interesting also is, I was in one of the TNT depots not long ago and saw the effect actually of that attack you were talking about, and have seen what they have done to try and now prevent it happening again, but also just get back on their feet fully from when it happened. Can I just ask very sort of briefly, what sort of level of investment do you see in organisations that you're familiar with in that area? So, the Amazons, whatever organisation, how, as a rough percentage, might be difficult to put in percentage terms, but are they investing in that in regard to protection, or does that kind of get left to other people?
They're investing millions. It's not the equipment and technology that goes inside, it's the brain, as we're talking about here, that's managing that, especially with global businesses. I've got a project at the present moment where it's with one of the big ERP providers, and they're trying to get it to work properly to what the customer wants, which is innovation. And they're spending something like £600,000 a month just to get it right. It is where it's going to be. Yeah. It is, and I think it's been alluded already, that it's a matter of compartmentising what you're doing with your business so that if you do get an attack, you can pick it up somewhere else very quickly. It's also getting the data stream right as well. Yeah. So it's a big problem, and costly problem as well.
It's interesting that I think you'll find people have quite a lot of investment in technology protection. So an IT person can talk a lot about how they need to protect security, and we see lots of issues around this current challenge that we're seeing in KFC, which is all sort of a lot of information in the media at the moment. What's really going on behind the scenes is probably quite different than we're reading in the media in terms of whose fault this is or what the issues are. So I wouldn't try and guess what they are, but trying to get a business to spend time investing its time in simulating failure is a real issue, because businesses don't want to spend their time thinking about failure, because failure won't happen because we're a great organisation. So I have worked for businesses where we have risk teams, and those risk teams' actual job is to go around the business and discuss what potential failure points exist, and then work with the teams to actually simulate, almost like a fire drill.
You've got
what is it that's going on?
You've got to be a certain personality type to work in those teams.
You definitely have, and I've met a few over time. It's a real skill set out there to get an organisation to stop and think and actually go and do something about it. And actually, quite often, the things you can put in to be resilient are not necessarily very expensive. No. They might just be cleverly thought through plans that you can pull out of a drawer on a day when something does happen, so that everybody doesn't panic and you solve a problem quickly.
I think more and more, the more business you do with more other organisations of the right calibre, you're forced to think that way. Yeah. You know, if you're bidding for certain tenders, you won't get through the door if you haven't got a decent strategy in terms of risk management, disaster recovery, failover in terms of your technology. So you're just not allowed to get away with it.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, interesting. If you were sat in KFC at the moment, what would you? There'll probably be two teams. There'll be a team I would have thought that's working on what the hell's gone on, how do we get back on our feet and all that sort of stuff. There'll be another team that's working on, oh my God, in the next few weeks we are going to have some of the biggest weeks we've ever had because of all the noise that's been made about it, and everybody's got that finger-licking feeling at the moment. I think, Christ, I want a KFC. So it'll be really busy in the next few weeks, and that could damage the supply chain again, because it'll be twice as busy as it's been predicted to be.
We've also spoken today about new technologies, emerging technologies, and cyber technology, or cyber attacks is a new form of technology. We've been here 10 years ago and somebody mentioned cyber attacks or cyber security. Wouldn't have known what they're talking about. And the nature of villainy is that the villains tend to be one step ahead. So we hear almost on an annual basis of a different form of cyber attack, all ultimately with the same aim in mind, of being able to extort money from organisations. But the likelihood is, as Pete said, maybe some of you know who you are, but very few of us will know what the next type of cyber attack looks like or what form it will take. So from a security, from an investment point of view, it's a very difficult thing to protect yourself against something which you don't know what it is you're protecting against.
Yeah, good point. Thank you.
I think maybe the moral is be a villain.
Okay. Can we just go this side first? Because I think we just had those hands up then we'll come over to this side. Is that okay?
The question.
You have to sing as you go up the stairs.
No, I'm definitely not doing that. I just wanted to say that the Amazon key thing terrified me. The thought that they might have my data, and if someone hacked that, anybody could get in your house. Ooh.
It has happened.
Well,
yes. Was it your house?
No. Hello, panel. My name's David. I'm a member of staff here at the University of Derby. I was interested in the question on resilience because my area of research is in risk management and business continuity, but I'll leave that to my colleague, and thank you for the answers. I want to ask a question more about, there was an emphasis that we look at logistics and supply chain by starting off with the end user and then kind of almost working backwards and saying what's the most efficient and what's the most effective means that we can achieve their needs. And I just kind of got a sense with some of the methodologies that are being used and some of the technologies that the role of the employee is almost being relegated a little bit. And I just wondered what is the responsibility for organisations in terms of job enrichment for their staff, because by nature we're social creatures, we want to interact, and a lot of the technology seems to be about automating lots of these processes. So where does that now leave the employee? What role do they now have to play in this future?
Okay, thank you.
Where do we start?
Well, who would like to pick that one up?
I'm happy to go on that one.
Okay.
So one of my roles was working in Travis Perkins. So if you're building a property or doing what I'm doing at the moment. You know, you're getting deliveries on a big wagon that's got a crane on it, going into very difficult spaces with lots of health and safety requirements. You know, there's some real challenges in some tough environments. So how do you attract somebody to do a job like that? And I think there's a number of factors it comes down to. Some of them we alluded to in the presentation, which is, you know, colleagues. You need to create the environment that people want to work in. So some of those jobs, although they might be out and they might be remote, you know, are those guys part of a team? Is that team getting together on a regular basis? Do they enjoy that part of the job? So all these sort of people bits we talked about earlier, really, really important. The other side is, can these people sell for us? So, you know, if I'm sending a driver out onto a job, more often than not, the person who's actually placing the order in our world might have been a client who's doing up a property, but actually the person doing the job is the builder that the product arrives with. So when that product arrives, is the driver enabled with the information, the knowledge, the skills, the technology to interact with the builder to be able to say, if you need anything else, what else can I get you today? You know, and actually carry on building that relationship. So the building materials business is very much a relationships-based business, and you'll find if you get into it, your builder will go to a particular place because of the relationship he has with someone. So it's all, I think that's quite interesting. It gets into the whole personalisation thing and this whole piece about, you know, having the information as a driver, for example, having the information about the customer you're about to visit, the location you're about to visit, maybe knowing them a slightly better and being able to interact with them because you've got information about them. There's all sorts of data issues, but you know, that is definitely an area that we saw in Travis as a way of beating the competition.
From our point of view, we did a workshop on this a few weeks ago, and we've got a scarcity of people. We've got scarcity of people in a number of different ways. We've not got enough people coming through the pipe quickly enough to be promoted to the with the level of skills that we want. There are also there's a booming economy, you know, especially in the logistics sector. So it's relatively difficult to go and find general managers, and people are commanding more and more pay that comes off the back of that. We're scarce. We've got scarce resources at peak, because when we peak in e-commerce, particularly, we can take a site that goes from 300 people at core to 2,000 people for about 10 weeks, and that's quite poor. So when we talk about some of the solutions and the technologies, it actually helps to obviate those peaks. You would rather have 250, 300 core colleagues who you train well, communicate with, look after, who can solve a whole manner of different problems, who've got the flexibility to move from job to job, and let the automation take more of the burden when it comes to managing peaks through the day, the week, the month, the year. So that's sort of the attitude that we have. And some of the brave bits are, where do you spend your money and in what order to deliver, you know, to get those benefits. But with scarce labour, and also we've studied Brexit as a problem as well, in that with a relatively hard Brexit possible, it could be that people from, you know, the EU in particular just sort of say it's actually easier to get jobs, to get equivalent pay, and the value of my money is worth more back where I came from, rather than the advantages that they might see here today. So we've got all of those things going on, and now customers expect us to have a people policy and a strategy around all of those issues. We're not allowed to ignore it, and we wouldn't do, because it would be a dereliction of our responsibility.
Okay, thank you. Just behind, and then we'll flick over here.
Hello, my name is Nikolai, University of Northampton. What I do actually is journalism in logistics, supply chain, etc. And something that you talked about is, okay, we have digitalization, we have all those fancy trends, but the question is, what does that mean what does it mean for people in this room? Does that mean more managers in supply chain? Does that mean that people with degree will go straight to logistics companies in a sector that recognizes coming bottom to top rather than having a degree?
The sort of the bottom to top thing, I think, is a generational thing.
Yes.
I think if you look at the age profile of the guys on the panel, you know, we're extremely young and vibrant. You know, but that happened when we grew up. More and more now, more and more graduate entrants are coming in, and are being fast-tracked through businesses because there's a lack of talent at the sort of middle to senior levels. So you need to get people through the ranks relatively quickly. And the level of technology, sophistication, problem solving that we expect demands a certain type of people. So it sort of polarizes a bit. For a while, there'll still be lots of colleagues who are working in relatively manual environments, and they'll want to earn, you know, a certain wage and go home and do what they need to do. And there'll be other more aspirational people who want to go. We need both. So, you know, in terms of answering your question, there's a lack of people in the logistics sector, and as we die off.
That's my skiing next.
Yeah.
Some earlier than others.
Yeah, that can be accidental or sort of or gradual. Then clearly we have to have more and more people coming through to solve the problem.
I think the other dimension to this is I worked on a project with the government, and it was such that, is logistics sexy? Putting somebody on a forklift truck, yes, versus controlling and being involved in moving robots around at the moment is probably more sexy than sitting on a forklift truck. So I think from our business point of view, in being able to devise solutions, I need the young, bright thing to come into the business and get their ideas as quickly as possible, because the challenge is things are changing quickly. And as already stated, it's brand management. It's about making sure that I'm better than the competition. So it's those people that within businesses that want to think and challenge themselves and move their businesses forward and know that they can have the confidence and trust of a partner that can help them through with experience and expertise.
Thank you. I think one of the big things that's changed in the last few years is logistics in the boardroom. So the great news for you guys is, you know, in our time, it was the case that most businesses that weren't a third-party operator, if you like, but most retail-type businesses or operational businesses didn't have a logistics operator at the board table. Yes. They might have had the head of manufacturing, they might have had the head of marketing, the head of buying and procurement, but not logistics. It was a level down. And we've seen in the last sort of 10 years, particularly the last 5, that actually the challenges a lot of organisations face, mainly because of this final mile approach to consumerism now, that they've got to have somebody with that skill set sat at that level. Now the challenge with that is that filters all the way through the organisation, because if you've got somebody sat at that level, you've got to have multiple people sat below to try and solve the problems. And the costs of getting it wrong in the supply chain now are just so high that the businesses can't afford not to spend the money in this area. The challenge has been that generally the people that have gone into the senior roles in those areas are people like ourselves who've worked our way up through the business, and actually, I don't know about yourself, but I wasn't doing what I call a logistics job when I was 28, 30. So I spent 10 years of my career doing some of the people management stuff, store management, that sort of stuff, still be in good stead. But I wasn't doing logistics, and I certainly wasn't doing a degree in it at the age group that's in here. So, you know, there's real opportunity for people that have got the skills that you're developing, and a real demand for it. There's a massive shortage. It's one of the biggest issues that the Chartered Institute of Logistics is trying to get behind and really push.
I suppose a piece of advice I would give is go out and get as much experience as you can. You know, if it's part-time roles, internships, years out, anything you can get your hands on, you will learn a vast amount by actually being part of the cohort that does the job, rather than, you know, sort of talking about it, thinking about it, theorising. Go and see it. Any opportunities you can get to be a part of an operation, go on visits. You know, badger people to let you in to do certain things, because there's no substitute. And if you've got youth and a qualification and experience, you'll be highly sought after.
Absolutely.
We should spend a few minutes on this bit, because I really do think there's a great opportunity. There's a massive opportunity. I think, to your point, I think do what you enjoy. So if you want to go and look at security risks in the supply chain and you find that really interesting, go and do it. If you enjoy it, you'll be great at it, and go deep dive into it and really understand it. There's another route, which is you can go and you can do a number of things across the supply chain and actively go and take roles that move you through the supply chain. Because actually the people who understand how it fits together are the most valuable people out there. Because what happens is when you get yourself into a senior position, you can solve problems quickly. Whereas you know, talking about the issues of collaboration between departments, quite often it's because the senior people have only ever worked in that department, have just worked their way up on it, and they've got all of these inbuilt thoughts about other departments and what they do and don't do. If you've worked in other departments, if you've worked through the chain, you understand the issues and you can make the information and the product flow. So yeah, there's a bit of a career tip for you if you can move around, try and move between departments if you can.
I think also that the scope has changed enormously. You know, not that many years ago, logistics was purely a cost function of the business. It was a way that we, you know, a necessary evil, if you like, that we had to get the products from there to somewhere else. Now logistics is a way organisations gain competitive advantage. You know, that's how Amazon, you know, became the company that it is today, because it gained a competitive advantage through logistics. You know, most people, probably of our age, first thing that we bought internet was either a book or a CD through Amazon. Could have gone down the road and bought one, but we got it. Yeah, they got that book overnight. We tried it. You know, you've got that scope of adding value, strategic advantage, but you've also got these global supply chains. You know, it's not just a question of a local job, it's a global job within Europe, you know, Southeast Asia. Your qualifications within logistics take you anywhere. You know, it's not a set of qualifications, say like medicine, that you can only operate here with them. Logistics skills and a desire to work, those two, you know, they're different, but if you haven't got the desire to work, then don't go into it. But if you've got a desire to work and you have those skills, the opportunities really are enormous.
Okay, thank you. Okay, conscious of time, just one more question. Just one more second. Did you have your hand up a long time? This gentleman who's been waiting a long time, I'm really sorry. If you've not had a chance to ask a question, I'm sure if you ask one of these gentlemen...
Ask me tomorrow.
Yeah.
Teaching him tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
When we finished here, there's networking downstairs.
The name's Martin Brown, Rolls-Royce. I'm of the older set, to be honest. My question was around people again, but it's more on what is the bottleneck? Is it logistics skills, people, or is it when you're implementing technology and maintaining it, the sort of coding, the IT? So what's providing you your challenges at the moment when you're implementing stuff? Is it the design of the logistics type systems, or is it the coding and IT side of stuff?
A good question, but it's probably not any of those. It's called change. It's you're working with an organisation that's got its current processes and the way they're working, and the business is changing its strategy. How do you actually, from a people point of view, bring those people with you on that journey? Robin was talking about some of this earlier. Yeah? We find educating existing customers to understand the technology that's coming on and how to operate it. It's probably the hardest challenge that we actually have, is bringing the people along. People can destroy what you're putting in quite easily, very easily, yes? So you've got to have a business that you feel that you can work with to take them along that journey. So it's not just trying to sell some technology and put it in, it's actually working with them and saying, we're going to change this. How do we bring those people with us? We'll set up their work cell and we'll show them what it's going to look like. Let them play with it and let them actually say, we'd like to change it. We actually do, with simulation, we do this with VR, so that the person is actually wearing it, is actually at the PlayStation, if I put it that way, which is the picking area or packing area or whatever, and actually they buy in straight away, and when it comes, they're proud of what they've done. You've got to bring the people along with the technology change and what the customers are looking for. This is one of the hardest things of getting the director who's trying to actually drive the business on, but bring your people, even the cleaner on the shop floor, along with you to actually take on that big challenge. So it's I see it as more change management.
So is it technology or is it like logistics skill? I think for the existing sort of larger businesses, technology has been a massive issue because they've got legacy systems, and they are just, you know, trying to change a system on the fly while you've got all of these new things coming through is a massive issue for business. And you know, in my view, even when they change the legacy systems, it takes so long that by the time they've changed them, they're ready for another change again. So what I think is exciting for you guys is I think we've lived through an era where for probably 20, 25, 30 years there's been some really dominant retailers. There have been some big names that have been very dominant. I talk about retail because that's my background, but same in other parts of the industry. I think over this coming period there'll be lots of smaller businesses who are very fleet of foot, are using the newer technologies faster, and as a result of that getting a great result for their customers, and it'll be a great time because it'll change the high street and it'll also change the industry. The newer businesses need the logistics skill set because they're quite often technology led, and what they're desperate for is people who can make things happen and understand how to convert that into their technology. So I think that's where there's definitely a bottleneck of people out there that I see a lot of requests for people who've got parcel skills or internet, I get telephone calls, can you tell me somebody who's got great e-commerce skills to go, and actually what they mean is, can you tell me the name of a great logistician, somebody who's got great project management, development skills who can come and help me solve my problems.
I think from my point of view, there's sort of a modularity to things becoming more and more apparent. So what I mean by that is that the need to integrate many, many systems together to create solutions. So many of the things that you've seen on here, when I did Doddle, we had a pretty straightforward click and collect service. That was 36 systems sewn together. So the system that sends you a text message, say your parcel's here, and the system that sends you an email, and the other one that has a push notification, there's 3 systems without even blinking. So, and that was a very simple thing with 36 systems. If you add that to legacy systems, and you've got a high risk sort of factor when you've got legacy systems, so you would like to rip it up, start it again, get a new thing out of the box, but that has people and training implications and has risks. So if you're a PLC like we are, you're balancing all of those sort of equations. So I would say it's more of those technological integration challenges more than the logistics side of things. I think you can get a clearer picture on logistics. It moves around, it changes and things happen, but the technology you need to be able to differentiate yourself is just moving faster and faster. And it's outwitting the skills that are there.
Thank you. Okay, apologies if you've got a burning question and you've not had a chance to ask it, but we do need to smooth things on because I'm sure you're all hungry as well. Alison we'll just finish off, but thank you, gentlemen, and just from myself, we could just show our appreciation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. I'll draw the evening to a close up here, and when we go downstairs, there's some food waiting for us, so please stay and eat. Otherwise, I'll have to take home a giant doggy bag. First of all, I want to say thank you very much to our guest speakers this evening for coming along and entertaining us and giving us ideas about the future of logistics and supply chain. And I've got a small gift for them, which is absolutely not automated in any way. Quite retro, in fact. So many thanks, Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Martin.
Thank you.
Thanks
Mark.
very much.
Appreciate it.
Mark.
Mark, oh, okay.
And Peter, thank you.
Thanks, Alice.
I've also got some other thank yous to do. I'll try and keep it shorter than an Oscars speech. But thank you to our speakers today here and to the participants in our round table event we had earlier this afternoon, and to John Forkin, Managing Director of Marketing Derby, for chairing that event. I'd also like to thank Simon Smith for emceeing this afternoon and Julie Stone for opening the event. I've been very well supported throughout the organisation of this massive event with an excellent team, including all the logistics and supply chain staff here at the University of Derby who've been marvellous. and all the associate lecturing staff as well, who've also contributed. I also want to say thank you very much to the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport for helping us with this event and supporting us so very much with all our logistics courses. And also to thank the EnSite team who have worked with us on this project and have helped to organise and get in touch with all sorts of companies to get them to come. Therefore, their help has been absolutely brilliant. I would also like to thank our University of Derby events team and marketing team, and also the people that have done the photographing and the videoing, the Red Shell Productions who are here today to do the filming. I hope they'll cut out all my fluffs. I'd like to thank IT, who have been marvellous, thank you, Harry, and our catering staff who have delivered downstairs, and to everybody who's contributed. We had cleaners in and everything, getting everything ready. Everybody from the entire supply chain needed to get this organisation done. And last but not least, thanks to our stewards who have acted here on the day to help everybody around, and thank you to you for coming. I hope you've had a good time. Hope you've learned something interesting, and I'd like to invite you to come back to future events that we'll have here at the university, watch the space, and come downstairs and have a chat with us in the atrium. Thank you. Good night.